Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy History Channel. Tonight, we'll explore one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. Scattered across fields and hidden in valleys, stone circles rise out of the earth, like magical echoes from another age. Some are grand and imposing, their stones towering above the grass, while others are modest rings, weathered and almost lost to time. Yet whether vast or small, they carry an aura of wonder. They are monuments older than empires, older even than the pyramids, and their meaning is still shrouded in silence. Why circles? Why here, in these remote landscapes? Some align with the rising sun on the solstice, others with the cycles of the moon. Many seem as if they have a magical connection with the landscape itself. They may have been calendars, temples, gathering places, or something we have not yet imagined. For thousands of years, people have stood before these stones and asked the same questions we ask tonight. What strange events unfolded here? And who were the individuals that built these breathtaking monuments? If you enjoy these quiet explorations, I invite you to like and subscribe, or simply share a thought in the comments below. It helps others find their way here too, one sleepy soul at a time. But for now, let the weight of the day slip away. Settle into stillness and allow your thoughts to soften as we start our journey into the timeless mystery of stone circles. Let's begin. The oldest known stone circle is over 7,000 years old. The oldest stone circle that we know of today lies not in Britain or Ireland, but in the sands of southern Egypt, at a site called Nabta Playa. Built more than 7,000 years ago, this circle predates Stonehenge by millennia. Archaeologists believe it was created by nomadic cattle herders who roamed a Sahara that was then lush with lakes, grasses, and wildlife. The stones are carefully arranged to mark the rising of the sun at the summer solstice, showing a surprisingly advanced understanding of astronomy for such an early time. It is astonishing to think that before the invention of the wheel, before writing, before organized states, people were already building great monuments to track the sky. Standing at Nabta Playa, you are looking not just at stones, but at the earliest known attempt by humans to map the heavens with monumental architecture. A stone circle once stood deep in the Sahara Desert. When we imagine the Sahara Desert, we picture endless dunes, scorching heat, and lifeless expanses. But thousands of years ago, the Sahara was a green world. Monsoon rains fed rivers and lakes, and nomadic peoples thrived among grasses and herds of cattle. In this forgotten landscape, they built stone circles. The best known is at Nabta Playa, where upright slabs stand in a carefully measured ring. These stones once marked the summer solstice, helping herders know when rains would come and when to move their animals. Over time, the climate shifted. Lakes dried, grasses vanished, and the desert swallowed the land. The people left, but the stones remained. Today, to see them is to glimpse a hidden past, a desert that was once alive with water, people, and star-like rituals. These silent stones are the only voices left from a time when the Sahara was green. Britain holds the largest number of stone circles in the world. Nowhere else on Earth holds such a dense concentration of stone circles as Britain. More than 1,000 of them are scattered across the island, rising from windswept hills, hidden in forests, or sitting quietly in farmland. Some, like Stonehenge and Avebury, are monumental, with stones towering high above the ground. Others are small, modest, and worn, almost blending into the grass. Together, they form a vast network of prehistoric architecture, testifying to the deep spiritual and social importance these circles held. Many were built in the Neolithic and Bronze Ages, from around 5,000 to 3,000 years ago. To walk across Britain is to step into a living museum, where every region has its circle. They were gathering places, ritual sites, and celestial observatories. Even after thousands of years, their presence remains powerful, as if they still watch over the landscape they were raised to command. Ireland has thousands of surviving stone circles. Ireland is another land where stone circles bloom across the countryside. More than 1,000 are still visible, though countless others had been lost to farming, weathering, and time. These circles are often smaller than the grand rings of Britain, but they carry their own quiet magic. Many are built from rounded local boulders, arranged carefully in rings that are aligned with the rising or setting sun. Some are used as ritual gathering places. Others may have marked burials or seasonal festivals. Unlike Stonehenge, Ireland's circles rarely use towering stones, but their intimacy gives them a special power. Standing within one, surrounded by the soft green fields and the whisper of the wind, you can almost feel the ancient ceremonies that once filled the space. In Ireland, stone circles are not rare relics, but part of the living fabric of the land, woven into hills, valleys, and memory. The megalithic circles of Senegal and Gambia stretch for miles. In West Africa, far from the misty fields of Britain or Ireland, stand the stone circles of Senegal and Gambia. These sites contain thousands of upright stones arranged in vast fields of circles, some stretching for miles across the landscape. They were built between 1,000 and 2,000 years ago, much later than the circles of Europe, but their mystery is just as deep. Many are connected with burial sites, suggesting that they were sacred places for honoring the dead. The stones themselves are made from laterite, a reddish rock that hardens when exposed to air. Entire villages must have worked together to cut, transport, and raise these massive stones. Today, the circles of Senegambia are UNESCO World Heritage Sites, recognized for their cultural importance. They remind us that the idea of arranging stones in circles was not limited to one region, but was a global human impulse. Mongolia has Bronze Age stone circles linked to nomadic peoples. Across the wide steppes of Mongolia, stone circles dot the grasslands, relics of Bronze Age peoples who lived and moved with their herds thousands of years ago. These circles often contain burials, marking them as sacred sites for the nomads. Some are small, made of stones barely above the grass. Others are larger, with carefully positioned standing stones. They remind us that stone circles are not just a Western European phenomenon, but a tradition that appeared wherever humans sought to give shape to ritual, death, and the heavens. For nomadic peoples, these circles may have been more than graves. They were anchors of permanence in a life of movement, markers of territory, and signs of connection between earth and sky. Even today, their presence across Mongolia speaks to a deep human need to create order, symmetry, and meaning in the landscapes we roam. Scandinavia's stone ship burials sometimes form full circles. In Scandinavia, the tradition of raising stones took on a different shape. The so-called stone ships were arrangements of boulders laid out in the outline of longboats, symbolizing the vessels that carried souls into the afterlife. Yet some of these stone ships curve so perfectly that they form circles, blending the imagery of boats and rings into one. These were burial monuments, but also cosmic symbols, circles for eternity, ships for passage. The largest of them, at Ancestral in Sweden, is over 50 meters long and lined with massive stones. To stand within one is to feel both the echo of the sea and the eternity of the circle. They show how widespread the idea of sacred rings was, adapted into local forms that carried the meaning of the circle across cultures and into the northern reaches of Europe. Stone circles exist in the Middle East as ancient desert alignments. In the deserts of Jordan, Syria, and Israel, aerial photography has revealed hundreds of stone circles scattered across the land. Locals call them the wheels of the desert. Some are simple rings of stones, others are vast, intricate designs visible only from the air. Many date back at least 2,000 years, though some may be much older. Archaeologists still debate their purpose. Were they burial grounds, ceremonial spaces, or markers of territory? What is certain is that they show a widespread human fascination with circles, even in the harshest environments. Unlike Stonehenge, these circles were never built to monumental scale, but their sheer number is astonishing. From the sky, they look like ancient signatures across the desert floor, reminders that people everywhere, across time and geography, felt compelled to arrange stone in circles and leave their mark upon the earth. North and South America also contain enigmatic stone circles. Although megalithic circles are most often associated with Europe and Africa, both North and South America hold their own traditions of stone rings. In Canada, indigenous peoples built stone circles called medicine wheels, some of which are thousands of years old and aligned with celestial events. In South America, particularly in Brazil, stone circles such as the site of Rio Grande stand like South American Stonehenges. These rings may have been used for rituals, calendars, or sacred gatherings. Though separated by oceans and cultures, the idea is the same. The circle is a symbol of unity, eternity, and the connection between people and the cosmos. Each continent carries its own version of this impulse, reminding us that humanity's fascination with circles is not confined to one place, but part of a shared imagination that spans the globe. Megalithic circles appear across every inhabited continent. When you step back and look at the pattern, an astonishing truth emerges. Megalithic circles are not isolated to one culture, but appear across every inhabited continent. From the sands of Egypt to the bogs of Ireland, from the forests of Scandinavia to the savannas of Africa, from the deserts of the Middle East to the grasslands of Mongolia, and even into the Americas, people have raised stones into rings. The details differ. Some circles are massive monuments, others small and simple, but the impulse is the same. Across cultures, across climates, across thousands of years, humans have looked at stone and seen a circle waiting to be formed. Why? The answers are many: astronomy, ritual, burial, community, symbolism. But perhaps it is deeper than that. A universal language of the circle, a shape that binds heaven, earth, and humanity together in stone. Some stones weigh more than 50 tons each. When we stand before a stone circle today, it is easy to forget the sheer scale of the task. Some of the uprights weigh more than 50 tons, heavier than a fully loaded semi-truck. Moving such masses without modern machines seems almost impossible. Yet prehistoric builders managed it with ropes, levers, sledges, and sheer human effort. Archaeologists suggest that hundreds of people could have hauled one stone over long distances, working together in extraordinary coordination. The largest megaliths, such as those at Avebury or Stonehenge, remind us of just how determined these communities were to bring their vision into reality. Every heavy stone was more than just a block of rock. It was a statement of collective will, a monument raised by hands, sweat, and ingenuity. The effort itself was part of the meaning, proof that the circle mattered enough to move mountains. Builders moved stones long before the wheel was invented. The wheel revolutionized human history, but stone circles remind us that great engineering feats were possible even before it appeared. Many circles were built during the Neolithic and early Bronze Age, thousands of years before wheels were used for transport. Without carts, builders dragged stones on wooden sledges, rolled them on logs, or floated them along rivers. Experiments today show that with teamwork, ropes, and simple physics, huge stones can be shifted surprisingly quickly. It wasn't easy, but it was possible. Moving such weights required cooperation across entire communities, families, neighbors, and extended groups pulling together. In some cases, stones traveled dozens of miles, suggesting that the act of transporting them was itself a ritual. Every pull of the rope was part of the circle's creation, binding people in shared purpose long before the age of machines. Wooden circles were often built before stone ones. Before the permanence of stone, people experimented with wood. Across Britain and Ireland, archaeologists have uncovered the remains of great timber circles, built with upright wooden posts sunk deep into the earth. Over time, these wooden monuments decayed, but their patterns remain visible in the soil. Some, such as Woodhenge near Stonehenge, were massive constructions, rivaling their stone counterparts in size. Wooden circles may have represented the world of the living, temporary, organic, and mortal, while stone circles symbolized permanence and eternity. This shift from wood to stone marked a profound change in how people saw themselves in the world. By raising stones, they declared their desire to leave monuments that would outlast generations. These early timber circles show us that stone circles didn't appear fully formed. They grew from an evolving tradition of marking sacred space with geometry and gathering. Many stones were chosen for their unusual shapes. Not all stones in a circle were selected simply for size or convenience. Many were deliberately chosen because they looked different from the others. Some are tall and slender, others squat and broad. A few have natural ridges, grooves, or colors that set them apart. At certain sites, one stone is clearly distinct, perhaps representing a leader, a spirit, or a connection to the divine. Builders may have seen special power in these unique shapes, giving them symbolic roles in ceremonies. In Ireland and Scotland, quartz stones that glimmered in sunlight or moonlight were often included, perhaps to catch attention or embody light itself. The effort to seek out such unusual stones suggests that symbolism mattered as much as geometry. Each stone was not just a building block, but a character in a sacred drama written in stone. Some stones were dragged from quarries dozens of miles away. One of the great mysteries of stone circles is why so many stones were transported from faraway places when suitable local rocks were available. At Stonehenge, for example, the smaller blue stones were brought from Wales, over 150 miles away. Moving them across hills, rivers, and valleys was no small task. Archaeologists believe they were dragged, floated on rafts, and rolled along log pathways. But why go to such trouble? Perhaps the source of the stone held spiritual significance, or perhaps carrying it was part of a ritual pilgrimage. By bringing stones from distant lands, builders may have symbolically gathered the world into their circle. The effort itself imbued the stones with power, every mile dragged, every obstacle overcome, adding to their sacred weight. To see one today is to see a stone that traveled farther than many people of its time ever would. Stone circles are often aligned with the horizon. If you stand within a stone circle and look carefully, you may notice that gaps and sightlines point directly to features on the horizon. Builders placed stones in alignment with where the sun or moon rose and set at key times of the year. At Castlerig in Cumbria, for instance, stones align with the surrounding mountains, turning the whole landscape into part of the monument. These alignments weren't accidental. They were carefully measured, requiring generations of skywatching. By fixing these patterns in stone, ancient people anchored the sky to the land. A circle wasn't just a gathering place. It was a map, a bridge between earth and the heavens. Today, watching the sun rise between two ancient stones still carries a sense of awe, as if you're standing inside an ancient calendar that still keeps perfect time. Certain stones are carved with mysterious symbols. Though most stone circles are plain, some contain carvings etched into their surfaces. Spirals, cup marks, concentric circles, and abstract symbols appear on the faces of certain stones, their meaning long forgotten. At sites like Newgrange in Ireland and Callanish in Scotland, these carvings suggest deep symbolic traditions. Were they depictions of the cosmos, maps of journeys, or sacred marks of ownership? Some carvings resemble stars or sunbursts, while others remain utterly enigmatic. What is striking is that such designs appear across distant regions, suggesting a shared symbolic language that spread across cultures. These markings remind us that circles weren't only built for the eye to see, but also for the hand to touch and the mind to contemplate. Every carved groove was a message, a story, or a prayer, still visible thousands of years after the carver's hand has gone. Some circles combine local stones with exotic ones. In certain circles, builders mixed stones from nearby fields with rocks brought from faraway quarries. The contrast seems intentional. Rough local boulders alongside polished, colorful, or unusual imported stones. This combination may have symbolized the union of different communities or realms. Perhaps local stones stood for the earth and the familiar, while exotic stones represented the distant, the divine, or the otherworldly. Stonehenge is a famous example, where massive local sarsens form the outer ring and smaller, far-traveled bluestones sit within. This blending turned the circle into a miniature cosmos, uniting near and far, mundane and sacred. Such choices show us that circles weren't just built with what was at hand, but with a deliberate vision of balance, contrast, and connection. Every stone had a role, and the choice of source was part of the meaning written into the circle itself. Builders sometimes split boulders to create matched pairs. At several stone circles, archaeologists have discovered pairs of stones that were once part of a single boulder. Builders split them deliberately, then set them side by side within the ring. This suggests that symmetry and pairing carried symbolic weight. Perhaps the two halves represented dualities, day and night, life and death, male and female, earth and sky. By dividing one stone into two, the builders created unity through separation, embodying balance in the very fabric of their monuments. The act of splitting may also have been a ritual in itself, transforming a natural stone into something marked by human will. To this day, these paired stones stand together, silent echoes of a prehistoric philosophy that saw the circle as not just geometry, but a story of relationships, opposites, and harmony written in stone. Quartz stones were often chosen for their sparkle. Among the grey and weathered stones of many circles, bright white quartz often appears, deliberately placed to catch the light. Quartz gleams in sunlight and glows under moonlight, making it a natural choice for rituals tied to celestial cycles. In some places, quartz fragments are scattered deliberately around circles, creating a shimmering effect like stars fallen to earth. Archaeologists believe quartz was viewed as a magical material embodying light, purity, and transformation. To include it in circles was to invite those qualities into the sacred space. Imagine a solstice dawn, thousands of years ago, when the first rays of sunlight caught a quartz stone and sent it flashing like fire across the ring. That glow would have felt like a gift from the sky itself, binding stone, light, and human spirit together in a moment of awe. Stone circles often frame the rising midsummer sun. One of the most consistent patterns found in stone circles is their connection to midsummer sunrise. At many sites, a line of stones marks the exact point on the horizon where the sun climbs on the longest day of the year. For farming communities, this was vital knowledge. Midsummer marked the turning point of the seasons, when days would begin to shorten and harvest time drew near. To watch the sun rise between ancient stones was to see the cosmic clock tick forward, anchoring human life to celestial rhythm. These events likely became moments of ritual, celebration, and gathering, when communities came together to mark the turning of the year. Even now, crowds still gather at Stonehenge to watch the midsummer sun rise through its ancient doorway, keeping alive a tradition that stretches back thousands of years. Some circles track the setting winter solstice sun. Just as many stone circles align with midsummer, others are tuned to the deep silence of winter solstice. At this moment, the sun sets at its southernmost point, the shortest day of the year giving way to lengthening light. For ancient peoples, this was a time of danger and hope, a reminder that winter was hard, but that light would return. Some circles, like Newgrange in Ireland, are built so that the solstice sun shines into hidden chambers. Others, like Dromeg in Ireland, align with the setting sun itself. These moments would have been filled with ritual and awe, affirming that the sun still lived and would rise again. The fact that such alignments still work today shows the precision and patience of the builders, who built monuments that continue to speak across time. Others mark the extreme positions of the moon. The sun is not the only celestial body traced in stone. Some circles are aligned to the moon's extreme positions in the sky, events that occur only once every 18.6 years, known as lunar standstills. The stones at Callanish in Scotland, for example, frame the low arc of the midsummer moon. To track these events, ancient people must have watched the night sky for generations, noting where the moon rose and set over decades. Such dedication shows that circles were not only practical calendars, but also spiritual observatories, binding the rhythms of Earth to the far more mysterious cycles of the moon. To stand in Callanish on the night of a lunar standstill is to see a sight that the builders themselves must have marveled at: the moon sliding across the horizon, caught perfectly between stones. Certain circles act as ancient star calendars. Beyond the sun and moon, some circles appear to map the stars. Patterns of stones may reflect constellations or mark the rising of certain stars at key moments of the year. For example, researchers have suggested that some Scottish and Irish sites align with the bright star Aldebaran, or the constellation of Orion. These patterns may have guided seasonal activities, migrations, or even spiritual stories tied to the stars. To fix such alignments in stone required immense patience, skywatching, and calculation. The circle became not just a gathering space, but a tool for keeping cosmic time. In an age without writing, circles were living calendars, a way to pass knowledge of the heavens from one generation to the next. They preserved the sky in stone, ensuring that future eyes could look upward and know the same stars their ancestors once followed. Some alignments still perfectly match the night sky. Thousands of years have passed since stone circles were raised, yet many alignments remain astonishingly precise. Solstices, equinoxes, and lunar standstills still play out across the same stones today. This accuracy is a testament to the builders' careful observation and planning. Imagine the effort of watching sunsets for decades, marking positions with posts, and then raising massive stones to enshrine that knowledge forever. These alignments mean that when you stand in a circle on a solstice morning, you are sharing a moment experienced in exactly the same way by people 5,000 years ago. Time collapses in those instants, your eyes, their eyes, one vision of the same sun or moon. The stones make eternity tangible, connecting ancient skywatchers to us with unbroken precision. Circles may have marked agricultural planting seasons. While the alignments of stone circles seem cosmic, their purpose may have been practical as well. For early farmers, knowing when to plant crops or move herds was a matter of survival. By watching the sun or moon through carefully placed stones, they could predict the changing of seasons with accuracy. Circles became vast natural calendars, allowing communities to coordinate agricultural work. Planting too early could mean crops lost to frost too late, and harvests would fail. The stones held this vital knowledge in permanent form. In this way, circles were not only sacred places, but also tools of survival. Ritual and practicality were intertwined. Celebrating the solstice or equinox was not only a spiritual act, but also a way of ensuring the community's food supply for the year ahead. Builders sometimes aligned stones with sacred hills. Many stone circles are aligned not only to the sun or moon, but also to features of the surrounding landscape. Hills, mountains, and ridgelines often frame sightlines from within circles. At Castlereagh in Cumbria, stones line up with nearby peaks, turning the horizon into part of the monument. This suggests that sacred geography mattered as much as celestial alignment. Hills may have been seen as dwellings of gods, ancestors, or spirits, and circles became portals linking earth and sky. Aligning stones to hills gave ceremonies a dramatic backdrop, connecting human gatherings with the enduring forms of the land. Even today, the combination of stones and mountains creates an atmosphere of timelessness. These alignments show that stone circles were never isolated monuments. They were carefully woven into their landscapes, binding people, earth, and sky together in sacred geometry. Some circles line up with distant mountains. In some cases, alignments stretch for miles, connecting circles to mountain peaks far across the horizon. This level of precision suggests extraordinary surveying skills. At certain solstices or lunar events, the sun or moon appears to rise or set directly over these distant peaks, framed perfectly by stones. For ancient communities, such moments must have been awe-inspiring, the vastness of the landscape brought into focus through human design. These alignments also hint that circles were part of a wider ritual geography, connecting places across regions. Mountains often carry spiritual meaning in cultures worldwide, seen as the homes of gods or ancestors. By linking circles to mountains, builders created monuments that were not only local gathering places, but also part of a cosmic web stretching across the land. The stones pointed not just upward, but outward, connecting people to the farthest horizons. Water sources were often included in alignments. Stone circles are frequently found near rivers, lakes, or springs. In some cases, their alignments point directly toward water sources. This may have been practical since gatherings required access to fresh water, but it may also have been symbolic. Water was life, essential for crops, animals, and people, and its presence made a place sacred. Reflections of the sun, moon, or stars on the water's surface may have been part of ceremonies, creating a mirror of the sky beside the stones. In many cultures, water was seen as a boundary between worlds, a portal to the spirit realm. To place a circle near water was to situate it at a threshold, where earth, sky, and underworld all met. These watery associations add another layer of meaning, reminding us that circles were not built in isolation, but as part of a rich, symbolic environment. Certain circles mirror constellations above them. Some researchers believe that stone circles were designed as mirrors of the heavens, with stones positioned to reflect constellations. For example, certain Scottish circles appear to mimic the shape of Orion's belt, or the Pleiades. This suggests that circles were more than calendars. They were miniature universes, earthly reflections of the sky. By arranging stones to match constellations, builders created sacred spaces where cosmic order was embodied in the ground itself. Rituals held inside the circle would have taken place inside a model of the cosmos, uniting participants with the stars above. Whether or not every pattern was intentional, the possibility deepens the mystery of these monuments. They were not only tools or symbols, but also works of art on a cosmic scale, designed to hold the universe in stone. Stone circles may have served as gathering places. Stone circles were not only monuments, they were social spaces. Imagine communities spread across valleys and hills, coming together at certain times of year to meet, trade, feast, and celebrate. The circles offered a central stage where rituals could unfold, surrounded by stones that marked the sacredness of the event. Unlike temples with walls, these rings were open-air sanctuaries, allowing people to gather under the sky. Archaeologists often find pottery fragments, animal bones, and evidence of fires, all suggesting that circles hosted large communal events. In a world without towns or cities, the circle was a gathering place that bound scattered groups into a single community. The stones were silent witnesses to shared stories, songs, and ceremonies. They held memory not only in their alignments, but in the voices of people who filled the space with life. Some may have been ancient ritual theatres. The arrangement of stones in a circle creates a natural stage. Everyone standing inside can see everyone else, and the stones themselves form a backdrop. This has led some archaeologists to suggest that circles may have been used as ritual theatres, where performances, dances, or reenactments of myth unfolded. The acoustics of circles often amplify voices and sound, turning spoken words or drumming into powerful experiences. Imagine torches at night, shadows dancing across upright stones, and figures moving in rhythmic patterns. These were not theatres for entertainment, but for ceremony, teaching, and initiation. They may have retold stories of creation, the movements of the stars, or the journeys of gods and ancestors. The circle was both stage and cosmos, where people acted out the great cycles of life and nature in a performance written in movement, sound, and stone. They may have been used for initiation rites. In many ancient cultures, important life transitions were marked by initiation, moments when children became adults, when apprentices became full members of their communities, or when leaders took on new roles. Stone circles, with their enclosed yet open design, may have been the perfect stage for such rites of passage. Passing through an entrance into the circle may have symbolized entering a new state of being. The alignment with sun and moon could have timed these rituals to cosmic cycles, binding personal transformation to the wider rhythm of the heavens. The stones, silent and eternal, were witnesses to these transformations. To stand within the circle was to step into the presence of ancestors and spirits. Each initiation carried the weight of stone, sky, and tradition. Though we cannot know the details, the very form of the circle suggests a sacred space for human transformation. Some circles were burial sites as well. Not all circles were empty spaces. At some sites, burials have been found within or near the ring. Cremated remains, grave goods, and small cairns suggest that circles sometimes doubled as cemeteries. The stones became guardians of the dead, marking the boundary between the living and the departed. In some cases, burial mounds were added to circles centuries after they were first built, showing that their sacred power endured. The circle may have represented eternity, making it the ideal frame for those who had passed beyond. Funerals held in circles would have carried deep symbolism, the body lowered into earth while the heavens turned above. The stones stood as eternal companions for the dead, ensuring that they were not forgotten. These burial circles remind us that death and ritual were at the heart of the megalithic tradition. Others were likely used for healing rituals. Legends tell of stone circles as places of healing. In later folklore, sick people were said to crawl through gaps between stones or touch certain uprights to be cured. While we cannot know if ancient builders intended this, it is possible circles played roles in rituals of health and renewal. The geometry of the circle, The symbolism of balance and the alignments with sun and moon all suggest themes of harmony. Healing ceremonies may have involved chanting, touch, or symbolic journeys around the circle. Some stones, particularly those made of quartz, were thought to carry special energies. Whether psychological or spiritual, the effect of such rituals would have been powerful. To be encircled by stone, sky, and community was to feel supported by the universe itself. Healing in this sense was not only of the body, but of spirit and soul. Drumming and sound may have been part of ceremonies. Sound behaves strangely in stone circles. Archaeologists and acoustic researchers have discovered that drumming, chanting, and even whispering can echo and carry in unexpected ways. Some circles amplify sound, making it possible for a single drum to be heard across the entire gathering. Others focus sound so that words spoken in one place are heard clearly in another. This suggests that sound was a key part of ceremonies. Imagine the beat of drums reverberating through stone, the voices of singers rising into the night sky, and the collective heartbeat of a community pulsing within the circle. Sound transforms space into ritual, and circles seem designed to heighten that transformation. Whether by design or happy accident, the acoustics of stone circles gave rituals an otherworldly power, turning gatherings into immersive experiences where the boundaries between earth, sky, and spirit blurred. Fire pits have been found within some circles. Excavations inside stone circles sometimes reveal evidence of fire pits. Ash, charcoal, and burned stones suggest that great fires were lit at the heart of ceremonies. These fires may have been used for feasting, offerings, or symbolic rituals tied to the sun. A fire inside a circle of stones is a striking image. Flames rising upward, sparks joining the stars, light flickering across the stones. For communities without artificial light, such gatherings would have been dramatic and powerful. The fire was life, warmth, food, safety, and renewal. And to place it inside the circle was to bind it to the eternal rhythms of the cosmos. Even long after the flames died, the stones held the memory of light. Archaeologists can still trace these ancient rituals in the blackened soil, whispers of ceremonies where fire and stone met in sacred union. Some were used for community feasts. Stone circles were not only about ritual and the heavens, they were also about people. At many sites, archaeologists have uncovered animal bones, pottery shards, and tools, suggesting that feasting took place inside the rings. Large gatherings would have required food and drink, and circles became places of communal sharing. Imagine cattle being roasted over fires, pots of grain simmering, and families gathered to eat beneath the gaze of stones. These feasts may have marked seasonal festivals, harvests, or special ceremonies. Sharing food bound people together, strengthening community ties. The circle, eternal and sacred, was the frame for human joy. Feasts in stone circles remind us that life was celebrated as much as death, and that community was as central as cosmos. To eat within the circle was to share not only food, but a connection to the ancestors and the gods. Circles may have symbolized the cosmos. The very shape of a circle carries cosmic meaning. No beginning, no end, a cycle without break, perfect for representing the sky, the seasons, or eternity itself. Many researchers believe stone circles were built as models of the cosmos, miniature universes set upon the earth. Their alignments to sun, moon, and stars support this idea. Standing within a circle may have been like standing inside the universe itself, surrounded by symbols of order and harmony. For prehistoric people, the cosmos was not abstract but living, present in every sunrise and every full moon. Circles embodied that presence in stone, fixing cosmic order in physical form. They gave communities a way to stand inside eternity, to feel part of something vast and infinite. Each stone became a star, each gap a horizon, and the whole circle a living cosmos. Others may have represented journeys of the soul. Beyond cosmic symbolism, circles may have represented spiritual journeys. Moving into the circle could have symbolized crossing from one realm to another, from the everyday into the sacred, from life into death, from ignorance into wisdom. The processions that often accompanied ceremonies may have followed pathways through avenues of stones, culminating in entry into the circle. In this sense, the circle was a liminal space, a place of transformation, where souls journeyed beyond their ordinary state. The arrangement of stones may have guided participants physically and spiritually, shaping the flow of ritual. For the dead, circles may have symbolized the path of the soul into eternity. For the living, they may have been places to practice journeys of vision and initiation. Every circle was both boundary and gateway, a place where the human spirit stepped into the eternal. Stonehenge is the most famous stone circle of all. No stone circle captures the world's imagination more than Stonehenge. Rising from the Salisbury Plain in England, its massive sarsen stones and smaller bluestones form one of the most iconic monuments in human history. Built in several stages between 3000 and 2000 BCE, Stonehenge is both a triumph of engineering and a mystery of meaning. Its alignments with the midsummer sunrise and midwinter sunset show careful astronomical planning, while its burials and artifacts suggest ritual and ceremonial use. The effort to transport the bluestones from Wales adds to its wonder. Today, millions visit every year, standing in awe before its towering pillars and lintels. Stonehenge has become a symbol of ancient wisdom, mystery, and endurance. It is not the only stone circle, but it is the one that has come to embody the enigma of them all, a prehistoric monument that continues to inspire wonder. Avebury is the largest stone circle in the world. While Stonehenge is more famous, Avebury is larger. Covering nearly 30 acres, it is the biggest stone circle ever built. Its massive outer ring contains two smaller inner circles, creating a vast sacred landscape. The stones themselves are enormous, some weighing over 40 tons. Surrounding the circle is a huge ditch and bank, dug entirely by hand, with antler picks and wooden shovels. Avebury was a monumental gathering place, capable of holding entire communities. Today, a modern village sits inside the circle, with houses and roads running between stones, a unique blend of ancient and present. Walking through Avebury, you feel the scale of prehistoric ambition. It was not just a monument, but a world unto itself, a sacred enclosure on a scale few monuments in history can match. Its size makes it a rival to Stonehenge in importance and majesty. Callanish in Scotland is aligned with the moon. On the Isle of Lewis in Scotland stands Callanish, one of the most haunting stone circles in the world. Built around 2900 BCE, it consists of a central circle with avenues of stones radiating outward. Its most remarkable feature is its alignment with the moon. Every 18.6 years during a lunar standstill, the moon skims the horizon and appears to set between the stones, framed perfectly by the arrangement. To observe such a rare event required generations of careful skywatching. For those who built Callanish, the circle must have been a sacred observatory, a place where heaven and earth met. Even today, the wind-swept setting, the radiating stones, and the play of light create an atmosphere of mystery and awe. Callanish shows that stone circles were not only about the sun, but about the deeper, slower rhythms of the moon as well. The Ring of Brodgar has 36 surviving stones. In the Orkney Islands of Scotland lies the Ring of Brodgar, a majestic circle over 100 meters in diameter. Originally, it may have contained as many as 60 stones, though today, 36 still stand. Unlike many circles, Brodgar sits within a massive ditch carved into the bedrock, a staggering feat of labor. Its scale suggests it was a major ceremonial center, drawing people from across the islands. The circle's location between two loch creates a dramatic setting, water and sky reflecting its form. Archaeological discoveries nearby show that Brodgar was part of a larger ritual landscape, connected with villages, temples, and tombs. To walk among its stones is to step into a prehistoric world where community, ritual, and cosmos merged. The Ring of Brodgar remains one of the great masterpieces of Neolithic architecture, a northern counterpart to Stonehenge in scale and significance. Stanton Drew once had the second largest circle in Britain. Near the village of Stanton, Drew in Somerset, lies a little-known giant of prehistory. Today, only a few stones remain standing, with others scattered or fallen. But originally, Stanton Drew was the second largest stone circle in Britain, with a diameter nearly as wide as the Great Circle at Avebury. It included several smaller circles and avenues, forming a vast ceremonial complex. Surveys have revealed hidden features beneath the soil, including wooden posts that once stood alongside the stones. The site's scale suggests it was a major gathering place, yet it remains far less famous than Stonehenge or Avebury. This quiet circle, tucked into farmland, is a reminder that many great monuments lie overlooked. Stanton Drew's scattered stones may not look as impressive today, but in their time, they formed one of the largest and most powerful ceremonial centers in Britain. Castlerigg in Cumbria sits among stunning mountains. High in the Lake District of England lies Castlerigg, one of the most picturesque stone circles in the world. Surrounded by peaks and ridges, its setting creates a natural amphitheater of stone and sky. Built around 3000 BCE, it contains 38 stones in an oval shape, with alignments that mark the sun and moon. Castlerigg's dramatic location suggests that the landscape itself was part of its meaning. Mountains may have been seen as sacred, and the circle became a stage for connecting human ritual with natural grandeur. Archaeologists believe it was an important gathering place for early communities, linking trade routes that crossed the region. Today, visitors often describe Castlerigg as the most atmospheric circle in Britain. Standing within it, with mountains all around, you feel both sheltered and exposed, embraced by earth, while gazing into the infinite sky. Boscarnoon in Cornwall has a leaning central pillar. Boscarnoon in Cornwall is a small but unique stone circle. Its most striking feature is a tall, leaning pillar at the center, unlike anything in most other circles. Archaeologists debate its purpose. Was it a marker of the sun, a symbolic axis, or simply a distinctive focal point? The circle is also unusual for including quartz stones, which catch the light. Local folklore tells of fairies dancing in the circle and strange sounds heard among the stones. Its Cornish setting ties it to a broader tradition of megaliths in the region, many of which carry stories of magic and transformation. The leaning pillar gives the circle a sense of character, as if one stone is alive, tilting toward the others. Boscarnoon reminds us that circles were not uniform. Each was shaped by local choices, beliefs, and creativity, resulting in unique designs with lasting mystery. Swinside in Cumbria is among the best preserved. Tucked into the fells of Cumbria lies Swinside, sometimes called Sumpenkirk. Though less known than Stonehenge or Avebury, it is one of the best preserved stone circles in Britain. Built around 3000 BCE, it contains 55 stones arranged in a near-perfect circle, most of which still stand upright. An entrance aligns with the winter solstice sunset, suggesting careful astronomical design. Swinside's preservation allows us to see the monument much as it appeared thousands of years ago, unspoiled by later farming or construction. Local legends tell that each time villagers tried to build a church on the site, the stones moved back into their circle overnight, hence the name Sunken Kirk or Sunken Church. Swinside combines accuracy, preservation, and folklore, making it one of the most remarkable circles in Britain, a hidden gem among the hills. The rollright stones are linked to eerie folklore. On the border of Oxfordshire and Warwickshire lies the rollright stones, a circle steeped in legend. According to folklore, the stones are a king and his army turned to stone by a witch. Locals say that the stones sometimes move at night, or that they cannot be counted accurately. No matter how many times you try, the number changes. The circle itself dates to around 2500 BCE and consists of worn limestone pillars forming an atmospheric ring. Nearby stand other megaliths, including the King's Stone and the Whispering Knights, linking the site into a wider sacred landscape. The rollright stones embody the way folklore grows around ancient monuments, filling gaps left by lost history with tales of magic and mystery. Standing among them, you feel the weight of both prehistory and centuries of whispered stories that still cling to the stones. Dromeg in Ireland is aligned with the winter solstice. In County Cork, Ireland, lies Dromeg, a beautiful circle of 17 stones. It is famous for its alignment with the setting sun on the winter solstice. On that day, the sun dips perfectly into a notch on the horizon, framed by the stones. Excavations have revealed a central pit with cremated remains, suggesting that the circle also served as a burial site. Nearby, a Fulacht Fiard, an ancient cooking pit, hints that feasting accompanied ceremonies here. Dromeg's compact size, dramatic alignment, and surrounding archaeology make it one of Ireland's best-known circles. Locals call it the Druids' Altar, though it long predates the Druids. To stand at Dromeg on solstice evening, as the last light of the year sinks into stone, is to experience the same awe that its builders must have felt, a moment when heaven and earth meet in fiery union. Some stone circles have double or even triple rings. Most people imagine a stone circle as a single ring of stones. But in some places, the builders went further, arranging 2 or even 3 concentric circles. Each ring creates a threshold, pulling participants deeper into a layered space that feels both sacred and mysterious. To pass from the outer ring into the inner one might have been a ritual act in itself, like moving from the ordinary world into a hidden realm. At Stanton Drew in Somerset, archaeologists discovered multiple rings, some of them timber, others stone. The inner spaces may have been reserved for priests, elders, or those undergoing ceremonies, while the outer rings were for the wider community. These multi-ring designs suggest complex rituals, with people moving through different zones during processions, feasts, or skywatchings. Concentric circles also resemble ripples on water, a visual metaphor for how sacred power might have radiated outward into the landscape. Others are connected by long stone avenues. Some stone circles are not isolated monuments at all, but part of greater ceremonial complexes connected by long processional avenues. At Avebury, 2 great avenues of standing stones once stretched across the landscape, guiding people from miles away directly into the sacred circle. These avenues were not simply paths, but corridors of power, deliberate experiences designed to transform those who walked them. Archaeologists believe processions along these avenues may have taken place during seasonal festivals, accompanied by torches, music, and ritual offerings. Each step brought participants closer to the heart of the sacred landscape, while the rhythm of the evenly spaced stones heightened the anticipation of arrival. The visual drama of such avenues cannot be overstated. Rows of towering monoliths stretching into the distance, ending in a circle where ceremony began. The avenues turned entire landscapes into ritual theatres, binding monuments, people, and journeys into a single living design. Some contained central standing stones. At the heart of some circles stands a single upright stone, often larger or taller than those in the surrounding ring. These central monoliths act like focal points, drawing the eye and creating a symbolic axis around which the whole monument revolves. Archaeologists have long debated their function. Some may have served as gnomons, casting shadows that track time during solstices and equinoxes. Others may have been ritual markers, altars, or embodiments of deities or ancestors. To stand within a circle and see a lone stone rising before you creates an atmosphere of reverence. The central pillar transforms the ring into something more than geometry. It becomes a cosmic compass. Offerings have been found clustered near central stones, suggesting that people approached them directly during ceremonies. Folklore often attaches magical powers to these solitary uprights, reinforcing their role as the soul of the circle, where earth, sky, and human ritual converge. Others have burial mounds at their centers. In some stone circles, the central space contains a burial mound, cairn, or chambered tomb. These sites combine two potent symbols, the eternal circle and the earth's rounded womb, to honor the dead. Excavations reveal cremated remains, grave goods, and offerings placed within or around these central features. Funerary ceremonies may have unfolded as processions circled the mound, with chants, fires, and gifts to guide souls on their journey. The alignments of such circles with solstices or lunar standstills tied the passage of individual lives to the larger cycles of time. In some cases, burials were added long after the circle's construction, showing that these monuments remained sacred for generations. To bury the dead at the heart of the circle was to place them inside eternity itself, surrounded by unbroken stone. These sites show that circles were not only calendars and gathering places, but also homes for the ancestors. Some circles were reshaped over centuries. A stone circle was rarely static. Excavations show that many were altered, rebuilt, or expanded over generations. A timber circle might be replaced with stone, or a small ring expanded into a monumental enclosure. Some circles saw stones removed and re-erected in new positions. Others gained additional rings, avenues, or mounds. This reshaping reflects living monuments that adapted to changing beliefs, leadership, or community needs. Each alteration would have been a communal event, reaffirming the circle's place at the heart of society. The very act of reshaping may have been as important as the ceremonies themselves, a way to renew the sacred space and align it with new cosmic observations. Today, archaeologists can still trace these layers in the soil: old stone sockets, recut ditches, and overlapping patterns that show monuments evolving over centuries. A circle was never just finished. It was alive, shifting with the people who kept it. Others were left incomplete, abandoned mid-construction. Not all circles were completed. Some sites show evidence of ambitious projects that were suddenly halted. Ditches remain half-dug, stones lie fallen where they were left, and sockets were prepared but never filled. Why abandon such work? The reasons remain speculative. Famine, disease, conflict, or changes in belief may have forced communities to stop. Perhaps a leader who commissioned the circle died before its completion, or an omen convinced people to abandon it. Incomplete circles remind us that prehistory was not a smooth progression, but a human story full of interruptions and uncertainties. These frozen projects are poignant. They capture the moment when hands stopped lifting, ropes were cut, and plans faded into silence. To see an unfinished circle today is to sense the fragility of ancient ambition, dreams that could be left half-formed, swallowed by the demands of survival and the unpredictable turns of life. Some circles are built with alternating tall and short stones. Patterns matter in stone circles. In some sites, the builders deliberately alternated tall and short stones, creating a visual rhythm around the ring. This may have served practical functions, such as marking key directions or sightlines, but it also added symbolic richness. The alternation could represent dualities, male and female, light and dark, life and death. When the sun moved across the sky, shadows from tall stones would leap dramatically over shorter ones, turning the circle into a kind of sundial in motion. This rhythmic variation also transforms the aesthetic experience of the ring. The eye naturally moves in a dance of highs and lows, echoing cycles and contrasts found in nature. Alternating stones remind us that the builders were artists as well as engineers. They used pattern, balance, and geometry to shape not just space, but the feelings of those who stood within it. Others use flattened slabs to form walls. While many circles use upright pillars, some were constructed with broad, flat slabs placed John to create low walls. These forms produce a stronger sense of enclosure, more like a boundary than a rhythm of uprights. They may have been designed for more private or contained rituals, shielding participants from the outside world. The use of slabs also reflects local geology. Some areas provided natural flat stones ideal for wall building rather than tall pillars. These slab circles often feel more intimate, their spaces more sheltered, like rooms beneath the open sky. People could sit against the warm faces of the stones, lean close during storytelling, or use them as altars for offerings. By varying form and material, builders showed flexibility and creativity. Each circle was not only a cosmic observatory, but a tailored design shaped by the stone available, the needs of the people, and the meanings they sought to embody. Some include stone outliers marking special points. Many circles feature lone outlying stones set beyond the main ring. These outliers often align with solstices, lunar extremes, or significant landmarks such as hills or rivers. At Stonehenge, the heel stone stands apart, marking the midsummer sunrise. At other sites, pairs of outliers form ceremonial gateways or frame sightlines towards celestial events. Outliers expand the circle into the wider landscape, stretching sacred geometry beyond the ring itself. They also create drama. The approach to a circle may begin at an outlier, guiding pilgrims along an invisible axis. Folklore often invests these solitary stones with special powers, places of oath, healing, or supernatural presence. To include outliers was to extend the circle's influence outward, ensuring that ritual space was not confined to the ring, but echoed across the land. They show how carefully ancient builders integrated monuments with both sky and earth. Certain circles are surrounded by ditches and banks. Some stone circles are enclosed by great circular ditches and raised banks, creating structures known as henges. Digging these ditches was a monumental task, carried out with antler picks, wooden tools, and human hands. The bank outside created a boundary, transforming the ring into an enclosed sacred precinct. Unlike fortifications, the ditches are inward-facing, showing that defense was not the purpose. Instead, these boundaries marked the transition between everyday life and sacred space. Entering a henge circle would have been a powerful act. One stepped across earthworks into a realm of ceremony, timekeeping, and community. The banks also heightened the visual effect, raising the stones against the sky and creating an arena-like stage. At sites such as Avebury, the ditch is so massive that even today it inspires awe. These henge enclosures show how stone circles were not only about stones, but also about reshaping the land itself. Stone circles were often reused by later cultures. Long after their original builders were gone, stone circles remained prominent in the landscape. Later, peoples repurposed them for their own needs, as gathering places, boundary markers, or even assembly sites for local councils. Archaeological evidence shows that burials from later periods were sometimes added within ancient rings, showing continued reverence for their power. Medieval writers speculated about their origins, attributing them to giants, wizards, or ancient kings. Farmers may have held fairs or markets within them, drawn to their open yet enclosed design. By reusing circles, each new culture wove its own meanings into ancient stones, layering history upon prehistory. Even as original purposes were forgotten, the circles endured as focal points of community and imagination. Their ability to adapt across millennia shows that stone circles were not relics trapped in the past, but living monuments that evolved with each passing age. Medieval farmers sometimes ploughed through the stones. As agriculture expanded in the Middle Ages, some stone circles suffered at the hands of farmers. Stones were toppled or buried to clear land for ploughing. Others were dragged away to build walls, barns, or roads. To us, it feels like vandalism. To them, it was practicality. A massive upright was simply a free supply of stone. Yet folklore often warned against such actions. Tales tell of crops failing, tools breaking, or misfortune striking those who disturbed ancient rings. Despite these stories, many circles were damaged beyond recognition during centuries of farming. Ironically, the very landscapes that first made these circles sacred later swallowed them back into ordinary use. The scars left by medieval farmers are part of the circle's long biography, a reminder that monuments must endure not only time and weather, but also the changing needs of human life. Some circles were dismantled for building materials. Entire stone circles were sometimes dismantled by later communities seeking ready-made building materials. Villages, churches, and farmhouses in Britain and Ireland may contain stones that once stood in sacred rings. Archaeologists can occasionally trace this by matching unusual rock types to nearby quarries or to circles now missing key stones. This recycling was destructive, but it also allowed fragments of the ancient monuments to live on within new architecture. A circle's stones might stand again in a church wall or a farmhouse hearth, carrying echoes of their prehistoric past into everyday life. Though the circle was lost, its presence persisted in altered form. This process highlights the tension between reverence and utility. The same stones that once framed solstice sunrises later framed windows or doorways. In their endurance, they show how human needs reshaped monuments, weaving fragments of prehistory into the fabric of later society. Others were feared and left untouched for centuries. While some circles were dismantled, others were carefully avoided. Folklore often painted stone rings as dangerous, cursed, or inhabited by supernatural beings. Moving a stone was thought to bring misfortune, sickness, or even death. Farmers sometimes ploughed around circles, leaving them as islands in the middle of fields rather than risk disturbing them. In some regions, children were warned not to play among the stones, and travelers avoided them at night. This fear, paradoxically, helped preserve many circles that might otherwise have been destroyed. The stories gave the stones agency. They were not inert objects, but powerful presences that demanded respect. Whether or not people believed the tales literally, they were enough to keep hands off the monuments. Fear became a form of protection, allowing the stones to stand in silence while centuries of human life unfolded around them. Folklore says some circles are people turned to stone. Legends across Britain and Ireland tell of people turned into stones for breaking sacred laws. Some circles are said to be wedding parties frozen in place, or dancers punished for merrymaking on holy days. The rollright stones are said to be a king and his army, petrified mid-march by a witch's curse. These tales gave the stones faces, names, and stories, weaving them into moral lessons. Children learned obedience and reverence through the warnings attached to the monuments. Though the original builders' purposes were forgotten, the folklore ensured that the stones remained meaningful. They became frozen actors in a moral drama, reminders of the dangers of disobedience and the power of the sacred. Even now, when we hear such stories, we see the stones not as random uprights, but as beings caught in an eternal movement, standing forever as witnesses to human imagination. Legends claim fairies dance in the circles at night. Another common strand of folklore imagines stone circles as places of enchantment where fairies gather. On moonlit nights, the little folk were said to dance around the stones, accompanied by eerie music. Mortals who stumbled into these gatherings risked being swept into endless dances, unable to stop until dawn. Offerings of bread, milk, or flowers were left to appease the fairies, while some circles were strictly avoided after dark. These stories gave the circles a sense of ongoing life. Even if humans did not use them anymore, otherworldly beings kept the rituals alive. Fairy lore reflects a deep human need to explain and animate the mysterious. The stones were too striking to be mute, so people filled the silence with tales of music, laughter, and danger. The idea of fairy dances preserves the circles as places of awe, wonder, and caution, alive with unseen presences. Witches were said to gather inside stone rings. In later centuries, when fears of witchcraft spread through Europe, stone circles became associated with dark gatherings. People imagined witches meeting at night to perform rituals among the stones, accompanied by spells, fires, and secret dances. Such tales may have been born from the circle's atmosphere. Isolated, ancient, and strange, they seemed natural settings for forbidden rites. Although these stories fueled fear and suspicion, they also helped preserve some circles, since communities avoided them out of caution. The association with witches reflects the ongoing fascination with these monuments as places of power, even when their original purpose was forgotten. Whether as theatres for witches or temples of ancestors, circles were never seen as ordinary. The stories ensured they remained liminal spaces, halfway between sacred and dangerous, human and otherworldly. Their mystery was not erased, but reinterpreted to fit the anxieties and beliefs of later ages. Some stones are thought to heal illness by touch. Legends describe certain stones in circles as sources of healing power. People believed that touching or circling them could cure ailments, particularly those of children. In some traditions, infants were passed through holes in stones to protect them from disease or ensure strong growth. Others claimed that lying against certain uprights could ease pain, or that drinking water from a hollowed stone could restore health. While these practices are recorded in later folklore, they may preserve echoes of ancient beliefs about the magical properties of stone. Quartz and other gleaming rocks were often thought to embody light and vitality. Even today, visitors sometimes leave ribbons, offerings, or tokens at circles, seeking blessing or renewal. Whether psychological, spiritual, or physical, the sense of healing remains tied to these monuments. Their endurance and silence invite people to place their hopes and fears upon them, trusting that stone will listen. Others are said to walk to drink from rivers. Folklore in Britain and Brittany tells of walking stones, megaliths that rise at night to stroll across fields and drink from nearby rivers or streams. These tales explain why some stones tilt or lean, as if caught mid-step. People claimed to hear rumbling noises or see strange lights when the stones moved. Sometimes, unlucky witnesses were said to be crushed if they stood in the stone's path. These legends animate the circles, giving them lives of their own. Stones were not just remnants of the past, but beings with secret routines. The idea of thirsting stones reflects humanity's instinct to connect monuments with natural cycles. The need for water, the flow of rivers, the rhythm of day and night. Even as myth, the stories keep the stones alive, reminding us that ancient monuments can be as much characters as they are structures. Many circles became sites of Christian crosses. As Christianity spread through Britain and Ireland, missionaries often claimed sacred pagan sites by planting crosses or chapels upon them. Stone circles were too significant to ignore, so rather than destroy them, the church sometimes reinterpreted them. In some cases, crosses were carved into existing stones. In others, new crosses were erected nearby, transforming the circle into a Christianized space. This blending preserved many monuments while giving them new layers of meaning. Local people continued to gather at the sites, now under the sign of the cross rather than the sun or moon. Legends grew that saints had preached among the stones or driven away demons that lurked there. These adaptations show how circles remained powerful centers of community life, even as belief systems shifted. Rather than erase the old, new faiths built upon it, keeping the stones at the heart of human ritual across the ages. Some stone circles produce strange acoustic effects. Researchers have discovered that stone circles are not just visual monuments, but acoustic ones too. Sounds behave in unusual ways inside these rings. Voices can echo, whispers can carry further than expected, and drumming can reverberate with uncanny strength. In some cases, the stones reflect and focus sound, creating pockets where noises are amplified, while other areas remain strangely quiet. To stand inside such a circle is to feel that the space itself is alive with resonance. For prehistoric people who lived in a world of storytelling, chanting, and ritual music, these effects would have been deeply meaningful. Imagine a ceremony where sound seemed to come from everywhere at once, magnifying the sense of presence and power. Stone circles may have been deliberately chosen or designed for their soundscapes, making them both theaters for the eyes and resonating chambers for the ears. Whispers at one stone can be heard at another. In certain circles, the acoustics are so finely tuned that whispers spoken near one stone can be clearly heard at another point in the ring. This whispering gallery effect is found in domed cathedrals and engineered spaces, but its presence in prehistoric stone circles suggests that ancient builders understood, at least intuitively, how sound behaves. Imagine two people standing at opposite ends of the circle, sharing secrets carried not through air alone, but guided by the stones themselves. For ceremonies, this effect could have lent a sense of magic, words of priests or elders traveling invisibly, reaching listeners as if spoken by spirits. Folklore often mentions stones speaking or carrying voices, and perhaps these tales are echoes of real acoustic experiences. Whether by design or accident, whispering stones show that circles were more than static monuments, they were dynamic spaces of communication. Certain circles amplified drumming sounds dramatically. Drums are among the oldest instruments, and their beat echoes like a heartbeat through human history. In some stone circles, drumming inside the ring produces an effect unlike anywhere else. The sound swells, reverberates, and grows louder than the instrument itself. Experiments with replica drums inside circles, such as Stonehenge, have shown that the stones bounce sound waves back into the center, creating a powerful, immersive vibration. Imagine dozens of drummers gathered, the beat rising into the night, felt not just in ears, but in bones. For prehistoric communities, Such acoustic intensity would have transformed ritual into something otherworldly. The beat of the drum could have symbolized the pulse of the earth, the rhythm of time, or the heartbeat of ancestors. Stone circles were not only visual temples to the sky, they were resonating chambers that magnified the primal language of rhythm. Stones may have been positioned for sound resonance. Some archaeologists and acoustic engineers suggest that the placement of stones in circles may not have been random, but chosen to shape how sound moved. Tall stones reflect sound strongly, while smaller ones diffuse it. Gaps and entrances allow sound to flow outward, while tight rings contain it. At sites like Stonehenge, experiments show that the placement of bluestones and sarsen's creates different acoustic environments, as if tuning an instrument. This hints that ancient builders were not only observing the heavens, but also listening to the earth. Sound, after all, is invisible, like wind, breath, and spirit. By arranging stones to channel resonance, communities may have created spaces where sound itself became sacred. Whether intentional or discovered by chance, the result was the same. Stone circles became instruments of ritual, amplifying human voice and music until they seemed to merge with the sky. Some circles create a sense of altered perception. Visitors to stone circles often describe unusual sensations, a shift in time, a feeling of enclosure, or an altered state of awareness. Part of this may be psychological, the symmetry, the weight of stone, the silence of the circle. But some researchers suggest that acoustics, light, and geomagnetic anomalies may also contribute. Standing in a circle aligned to the solstice, as sunlight pours directly into its axis, can feel like stepping into another reality. Combined with chanting, drumming, or fasting, such experiences may have induced trance-like states for participants. Ancient ceremonies may have deliberately sought to heighten perception, binding people more deeply to ritual. Even today, the calm, timeless quality of a circle can be striking. To stand within its stones is to feel the ordinary world slip away, replaced by an atmosphere that belongs as much to myth as to history. Researchers have measured unusual magnetism near stones. Scientific studies at several stone circles have revealed unusual magnetic readings near certain stones. These anomalies may be caused by the mineral content of the stones themselves, or by variations in the Earth's magnetic field at those sites. Some researchers speculate that ancient builders could sense or respond to these subtle differences, perhaps through their effect on compasses, fire behavior, or even human perception. Magnetic anomalies might have reinforced the sense that these places were special, infused with energies beyond ordinary understanding. While it is debated whether ancient people deliberately sought such sites, the presence of magnetic irregularities adds another layer of mystery. Combined with alignments to sun and moon, circles may have been chosen not only for their views of the sky, but also for the unseen forces running through the earth beneath them. Certain sites show higher background radiation. In some stone circles, scientific instruments have detected slightly elevated levels of natural radiation. This may be due to the geology of the area, particularly where granite or other radioactive minerals occur. Ancient builders could not have measured radiation as we do, but they may have noticed its subtle effects, unusual plant growth, glowing stones in firelight, or feelings of heightened energy at certain spots. Folklore often associates circles with healing or fertility, and some researchers have wondered whether natural radiation might partly explain these beliefs. Although levels are low and not harmful, the presence of such invisible forces adds to the aura of strangeness. Stone circles, already aligned with the heavens, may also have been rooted in the Earth's deeper energies, chosen not only for sightlines and symbolism, but for qualities that could be felt, but not seen. Lichens on stones can be thousands of years old. The stones of circles are not bare. They are living canvases covered with lichens and mosses, some of which have grown undisturbed for centuries. In a few cases, the lichen colonies themselves are thousands of years old, among the oldest living organisms on Earth. These slow-growing life forms tie the stones to a deeper timescale, bridging the gap between human history and natural eternity. To touch a lichen-covered stone is to touch not only ancient rock, but a living witness that has endured through storms, wars, and centuries of change. Scientists use lichens to study environmental conditions across time, making circles valuable ecological as well as archaeological sites. The lichens add beauty, splashes of silver, orange, and green that soften the harshness of rock, but they also add continuity. The stones endure, and so do their living veils, companions across millennia. Some stones were deliberately polished smooth. While many stones in circles are rough and natural, some show evidence of deliberate polishing. Builders may have ground their surfaces smooth using sand, water, or stone tools. A polished face would catch light more vividly, reflecting fire or sunlight during ceremonies. Smooth stones also invite touch, suggesting a tactile dimension to rituals. In some circles, only particular stones are polished, perhaps those aligned with solstice sunrises or significant lunar points. The extra labor required shows that these stones were given special importance. Archaeologists debate whether polishing was symbolic, practical, or both, but the result is striking. Stones that gleam in light, contrasting with the raw texture of others. To polish stone is to transform it, to lift it from nature into culture, to declare it sacred. These polished faces show how carefully prehistoric people shaped not just arrangements but surfaces, tuning every detail of their sacred architecture. Others retain tool marks from ancient shaping. Many stones still bear the scars of their creation, grooves, peck marks, and chips where ancient tools once struck. These marks are faint but visible reminders of the immense human effort involved in shaping and raising megaliths. Imagine generations of people hammering with stone mauls, chipping away at rock to create the shapes they needed. Some stones were split deliberately to create matched pairs, while others were squared or flattened for fitting. The marks themselves are a kind of prehistoric handwriting, recording the rhythm of blows and the patience of labor. They show that circles were not only natural formations, but crafted works, their stones chosen, shaped, and placed with care. For archaeologists, tool marks are precious evidence of technique and time. For us, they are a direct connection, the trace of hands that turned raw rock into monuments that still stand after thousands of years. Stone circles vary hugely in size. Not all stone circles are vast monuments like Stonehenge or Avebury. Their sizes vary dramatically, reflecting different communities, resources, and purposes. Some are a mere few meters wide, intimate enough for a handful of people to stand inside. Others stretch hundreds of meters across, able to hold entire gatherings. The variation suggests that circles were built for many functions: small rings for local rituals, large ones for regional ceremonies or seasonal festivals. This diversity shows that the circle was a flexible idea, adapted to the needs of each group. Yet whether large or small, the design retained its essence, an unbroken ring of stone linking earth and sky. To see a tiny circle hidden on a hillside and compare it to a sprawling complex like Avebury is to realize that the circle was both universal and personal, a symbol scaled to every community. The smallest circles contain only 4 or 5 stones. Some of the tiniest stone circles consist of only 4 or 5 stones, arranged in a ring barely a few feet across. These miniature circles may have served local families, small clans, or highly specific rituals. Their intimacy is striking, a sacred space small enough to step across in a few strides, yet still marked by the enduring symbolism of the circle. Some archaeologists think these small rings were linked to burial practices or agricultural rites. Others suggest they were boundary markers or local observatories for tracking the sun's movement. Though diminutive, they carry the same aura of purpose as the great circles. They remind us that the power of the circle was not confined to massive monuments. Even a handful of stones could embody the cosmos, marking time, space, and community in miniature. The largest circles stretch hundreds of meters wide. At the other extreme are colossal circles like Avebury, which spans nearly 350 meters across, making it the largest in the world. These vast enclosures could have held entire communities during festivals, rituals, or trade gatherings. To build on such a scale required massive coordination, labor, and shared vision. Walking across such a circle today takes minutes, not moments, and the sense of space is overwhelming. These giant rings were more than monuments. They were landscapes reshaped into symbols of cosmic order. They transformed the countryside into sacred architecture, visible from miles away. Their sheer size suggests they were central to entire regions, drawing people from great distances. In these monumental spaces, the circle became not only a sacred symbol but a stage for society itself, a place where myth, ceremony, and community were inscribed into the land on the grandest possible scale. Some circles are nearly perfect geometrical shapes. Archaeological surveys show that many stone circles are astonishingly precise in their geometry. Some are near-perfect circles, their stones positioned with remarkable accuracy, despite the builders lacking modern instruments. Others form true ellipses or carefully measured polygons. This precision suggests that ancient people had sophisticated knowledge of geometry, astronomy, and surveying techniques. By pacing out distances, using ropes, or marking alignments with stakes, they created shapes that rival modern accuracy. Such perfection was not only aesthetic but symbolic. A flawless circle embodies eternity, balance, and cosmic order. To achieve such designs with primitive tools speaks of extraordinary patience and skill. It also shows that the circle was more than a convenient form. It was a deliberate expression of harmony, measured and manifested in stone. These geometrical monuments stand as proof that prehistoric people were both artists and mathematicians, inscribing cosmic order on the earth. Others are irregular and organic in layout. Not all stone circles are perfect in form. Many are irregular, with uneven spacing or stones of differing shapes and sizes. At first glance, these imperfections seem careless, but they may reflect other priorities. Builders may have adapted to the available stones, choosing pieces with symbolic qualities rather than uniform shapes. The landscape itself may have influenced design, with stones positioned to align with hills, rivers, or horizons rather than strict geometry. Such irregularity gives these circles a natural, organic quality, as if they grew from the earth rather than were imposed upon it. They remind us that circles were not rigid blueprints but living creations, shaped by both human intention and natural circumstance. The irregular rings may have carried meanings just as profound as the perfect ones, showing that the sacred did not always require symmetry, it could also thrive in variation. Some contain gaps marking entrances. In many circles, deliberate gaps were left in the ring, forming clear entrances. These openings often align with solstices, lunar events, or significant landmarks in the landscape. To enter through such a gap was to pass from the outside world into a sacred realm. Processions may have approached from specific directions, timing their arrival with celestial events. The sense of movement through a gateway heightened the drama of ceremony, transforming the act of entry into ritual itself. Archaeologists sometimes find evidence of paving or marker stones at these entrances, further emphasizing their importance. The gaps reveal that circles were not closed fortresses but open temples, inviting people in at the right moment, from the right direction. They structured not only space but time, guiding participants in the choreography of ritual aligned to the rhythms of sun and moon. Others are fully enclosed rings. In contrast, some circles have no obvious entrances. Their stones form continuous walls, with no gaps for passage. These fully enclosed circles may have symbolized complete unity, eternity without interruption, or boundaries never meant to be crossed. Ceremonies could have taken place outside them, with the ring itself acting as a sacred enclosure marking off a forbidden or reserved space. Alternatively, entry may have been permitted only by climbing over or between stones, emphasizing the act of crossing into the sacred as a challenge. The closed ring carries its own symbolism. It is complete, unbroken, eternal. Unlike circles with gateways, these monuments seem to declare themselves whole worlds unto themselves, places where time is sealed within stone. Their very enclosure suggests that what happened inside was secret, set apart from ordinary life, reserved for the initiated or the divine. Certain circles form exact ellipses. Some of the most remarkable stone circles are not circles at all, but ellipses. Archaeological surveys reveal rings laid out with precise elliptical geometry, showing advanced understanding of mathematics. To create an ellipse requires more than pacing in a circle. It involves setting out focal points and measuring arcs. Why choose an ellipse? Some suggest it reflected astronomical cycles, since the sun and moon move in elliptical orbits. Others argue it symbolized balance between different forces or represented mythic dualities. Whatever the reason, the elliptical rings show deliberate design, not error. They also create a different experience inside. The space stretches and narrows, drawing attention along axes rather than equally in all directions. Elliptical circles remind us that ancient builders were experimenting with geometry, creating forms that were not only symbolic but mathematically sophisticated thousands of years before formal cars. Geometry was recorded in writing. Others are horseshoe-shaped rather than round. Another variation is the horseshoe, or U-shaped arrangement of stones. At Stonehenge, the famous trilithons form a horseshoe inside the larger circle, opening toward the midsummer sunrise. Horseshoe forms focus attention in one direction, transforming the circle's enclosing embrace into an open stage. These shapes may have framed ceremonies, directing participants' gaze toward the horizon, the rising sun, or a sacred axis. The horseshoe also suggests movement, an opening that invites passage or vision. Unlike closed rings, horseshoes are dynamic, pointing outward as much as inward. Their form shows that stone circles were not bound by one rigid design, but could be adapted for specific symbolic or practical needs. To stand inside a horseshoe arrangement is to feel both contained and directed, embraced by stone yet guided toward light and sky. Some circles were built on artificial platforms. In some places, stone circles were not set directly into the natural earth, but raised on artificial platforms of soil or stone. These platforms elevated the monument, making it more visible in the landscape, and perhaps symbolically lifting it closer to the sky. Building such foundations required enormous effort, suggesting that these circles were of special importance. A raised platform also controlled the environment inside, creating level ground for rituals regardless of the natural slope. In some cases, platforms were built over earlier monuments, layering sacred meaning into the site. By raising the circle above the ordinary earth, builders declared it a place apart, a stage for cosmic ceremony. The platform itself was part of the architecture, as significant as the stones it carried. To step onto it was to leave the mundane behind and ascend into a sacred world crafted from earth and rock. Stone circles often stand near ancient trackways. Across Britain and Ireland, stone circles frequently appear near prehistoric trackways, paths that once linked valleys, rivers, and high ground. These ancient routes were more than shortcuts. They were lifelines for trade, pilgrimage, and seasonal migration. Placing circles beside them ensured visibility, accessibility, and perhaps a deliberate association with movement. Travelers would encounter the stones as landmarks, gathering places, or spiritual waypoints. Some trackways still survive as faint lines in the land, used by shepherds and walkers. To follow them is to walk in the footsteps of thousands of years of journeys. The stones that stand beside them served as markers not only in space, but also in time, anchoring people's travels to the eternal. Their placement suggests that circles were not hidden sanctuaries, but active participants in the rhythm of movement across the land. Some are part of massive ritual landscapes. Stone circles rarely stand alone. At places like Avebury and Orkney, they are part of vast ceremonial landscapes that include avenues, barrows, henges, and chambered tombs. These interconnected monuments form a network of sacred spaces, each with its own role in the choreography of ritual. A circle might align with a mound that held the dead, or with a causewayed enclosure used for feasting. Together, they created an entire sacred geography, shaping the experience of communities over centuries. Archaeologists describe these as ritual landscapes, places where every hill, ditch, and stone was imbued with meaning. To walk through them today is to move through a prehistoric cosmos etched into the earth itself. Each site gains significance not only from its design, but also from its relationship to others, forming a landscape where human life, death, and the heavens were woven into one seamless whole. Circles are sometimes linked with burial cairns. Many stone circles are closely associated with burial cairns, mounds of stone built to cover graves. Sometimes the cairns lie just outside the circle, at other times they occupy the center. Excavations reveal cremated remains, offerings, and grave goods, suggesting that these sites were places of mourning and remembrance. The circle may have marked the cosmic order, while the cairn held the personal story of the dead. The pairing of the two united eternity and mortality, stone and flesh, sky and earth. It also allowed communities to gather for funerals in spaces already consecrated by their alignments with the heavens. Long after the ceremonies ended, the cairns stood as memorials, and the circles as reminders that death was part of the endless cycle of life. These sacred pairings reveal that circles were not only calendars and observatories, but also sanctuaries of grief and hope. Others are paired with long barrows. In some areas, stone circles are linked to long barrows, elongated earthen tombs that predate them by centuries. Long barrows were communal burial places, often oriented toward the rising sun. When circles were later added nearby, the pairing seems deliberate, connecting new forms of ritual with the older traditions of honoring the dead. The relationship between barrow and circle suggests continuity across generations, with each new structure layering meaning upon the landscape. Ceremonies may have begun at the barrow, invoking ancestors, before moving to the circle to mark cosmic cycles. This pairing reveals how ancient communities wove time into ritual. The long barrow embodied the memory of the past, while the circle looked outward to the eternal sky. Together, they created a sacred dialogue between ancestry and eternity, rooting people in both history and cosmos. Some stand beside ancient rivers. Water has always carried spiritual significance, and many stone circles are found close to rivers or streams. The flowing water may have been seen as a symbol of life, renewal, or the boundary between worlds. Rituals could have involved offerings cast into the river, feasts beside its banks, or processions along its course. Rivers also served as natural highways, allowing people to approach circles by boat or on foot. In myth and folklore, water often carries souls to the afterlife, and placing circles nearby may have reinforced this association. Today, many circles remain beside the same streams that nourished their builders, the sound of water echoing faintly across time. To stand at such a site is to sense the harmony between stone and stream, permanence and flow, the stillness of the circle paired with the ceaseless movement of water. Others crown windswept hilltops. Some of the most striking stone circles stand on hilltops, exposed to wind and sky. Their elevated positions offer wide views of the horizon, making them ideal for tracking the sun and moon. But their placement was not only practical, it was symbolic. A circle on a hill becomes visible from miles away, a beacon calling communities to gather. The effort required to drag stones uphill also speaks of determination and devotion. Ceremonies held in such exposed places would have been dramatic, with wind rushing through the stones and the vast sky arching overhead. Hilltop circles blur the boundary between earth and heavens, placing participants at the very threshold of sky. To visit one today is to feel the same elemental power, stone rooted in earth, standing tall against the endless sweep of clouds and wind. Certain circles sit on magnetic anomalies. At some sites, geologists have measured unusual magnetic anomalies directly beneath or around stone circles. These variations in the Earth's magnetic field may have drawn ancient builders to the locations, even if they could not explain them scientifically. Sensitive people may have felt these spots as unusual or charged, giving the sites a special aura. Placing a circle there transformed a natural oddity into a sacred space. While some anomalies are simply quirks of geology, their coincidence with circles is intriguing. The combination of visual alignments with sky and invisible energies beneath the ground suggests that builders were attuned to both the seen and unseen qualities of their landscapes. Whether deliberate or coincidental, the result is the same. Circles that feel different, places where the invisible forces of Earth and cosmos intersect in stone. Others mark ancient territorial boundaries. Stone circles may also have served as boundary markers, defining the edges of territories between communities. Positioned on ridgelines, rivers, or crossroads, they could have symbolized ownership, alliance, or shared ritual space. Unlike defensive walls, these boundaries were symbolic, marked not by fortifications, but by sacred architecture. Meeting at a boundary circle may have been a way for neighboring groups to negotiate, trade, or celebrate together under a neutral sky. The permanence of stone gave weight to agreements, and the cosmic alignments reinforced the idea that these boundaries were sanctioned by the heavens. Archaeologists note that some circles appear exactly between regions known for different styles of pottery or burial, hinting at their role as border shrines. The stones in these cases were not only witnesses to ritual, but also to the human need to define space, negotiate peace, and create order in a shared world. Some were reused in the Bronze Age. Stone circles were often built in the late Neolithic, but many continued to be used, adapted, or repurposed in the Bronze Age. New burials were sometimes added within or around them, accompanied by artifacts such as pottery, tools, or ornaments. In some cases, smaller stone settings or wooden posts were inserted into older circles, refreshing them for new rituals. This continuity shows that the circles remained important long after their original builders were gone. Rather than being abandoned, they were inherited, reinterpreted, and kept alive by successive generations. Each new use added another layer of meaning. turning circles into palimpsests of ritual and memory. The Bronze Age reuse reveals that these monuments were not frozen relics, but living centers of culture, their significance evolving with time while their stones stood unmoving in the landscape. Others were still visited in the Iron Age. Even in the Iron Age, centuries after many circles were first raised, people still gathered around them. Archaeological evidence shows that offerings were deposited at some sites, and circles continued to serve as landmarks for gatherings or burials. By this time, their original purposes may have been forgotten, but the aura of sacredness persisted. Folklore and legend may already have been growing, filling gaps in memory with stories of gods, heroes, or curses. The endurance of circles across cultural shifts shows their extraordinary hold on human imagination. Communities changed, technologies advanced, new religions emerged, yet the circles remained. To stand in one was to connect with a chain of ancestors stretching back into the deep past. For Iron Age peoples, the stones may have been symbols of antiquity itself, ancient presences watching over the ever-changing world. Stone circles inspired 19th century druid revivals. In the 19th century, during the Romantic movement, stone circles became symbols of ancient wisdom. Writers, poets, and antiquarians associated them with druids, imagining them as temples of Celtic priesthood. Although we now know the circles long predate the druids, this association captured public imagination. Societies of modern druids held ceremonies at Stonehenge and Avebury, reclaiming the monuments as sacred places for contemporary ritual. These revivals emphasized nature, cycles of the sun, and the continuity of ancient traditions. While historically inaccurate, they ensured that circles remained active sites of meaning, not just ruins for study. The 19th century fascination with druids made circles cultural icons, appearing in art, literature, and pageantry. Their image as places of mystery and wisdom was renewed, ensuring that the stones would continue to shape not only archaeology, but also spirituality and identity in the modern age. They became symbols of ancient wisdom. Beyond druid revivals, stone circles became cultural emblems of antiquity itself. They appeared in paintings, poems, and travel writing as symbols of the deep past, monuments that connected modern life to forgotten ages. In Britain, they were seen as national treasures, reminders of a heritage older than Rome or Christianity. Writers used them as metaphors for endurance, mystery, and the eternal. Circles embodied the idea that wisdom was not only written in books, but also inscribed in landscapes. Their association with cosmic alignments gave them an air of scientific as well as spiritual authority. For a society fascinated by both the past and the cosmos, stone circles became bridges between imagination and history. They stood as enduring symbols of the unknowable, reminders that human civilizations rise and fall, but the stones continue to stand, holding secrets beyond memory. Victorian tourists chipped away at stones. During the Victorian era, stone circles became popular destinations for curious travelers. Unfortunately, many visitors treated the monuments carelessly. Some chipped off pieces of stone as souvenirs, while others carved initials into their surfaces. Picnic parties were held among the stones, fires were sometimes lit inside circles, and stones were even toppled by crowds seeking entertainment. Antiquarians of the time lamented the damage, but preservation laws were limited or non-existent. The scars of Victorian tourism remain visible today, etched into stones that had endured thousands of years of weather. Yet even in their damage, these stories reveal the enduring fascination of circles. People were drawn to them, unable to resist the urge to touch, take, or leave a mark. The Victorian era both endangered and popularized stone circles, making them known to wider audiences while inflicting wounds that archaeologists now carefully record. Many circles are now legally protected. In the 20th century, attitudes towards stone circles shifted. Once seen as curiosities or sources of free building material, they are now recognized as invaluable heritage sites. Many circles in Britain and Ireland are legally protected as scheduled monuments or UNESCO World Heritage Sites. This protection means they cannot be altered, moved, or damaged without special permission, ensuring their survival for future generations. Conservation programs stabilize leaning stones, repair eroded ditches, and manage visitor access. While the stones themselves are durable, their settings are vulnerable to erosion, farming, and tourism. Legal protections have helped safeguard them against these threats. Today, visitors approach circles with reverence, knowing that they are guardians of a fragile and irreplaceable past. The shift from exploitation to preservation reflects changing values, a recognition that stone circles are treasures of human history, worthy of respect and care. Archaeologists still debate their true purpose. Despite centuries of study, the true purpose of stone circles remains a mystery. Were they temples, calendars, burial sites, gathering places, or all of these combined? The evidence supports multiple interpretations, but no single answer explains every site. Some were clearly aligned to the sun or moon, while others emphasized burial or ritual feasting. The variety suggests that circles had layered meanings, serving different functions for different communities over time. This ambiguity is part of their enduring fascination. They resist simple explanation, reminding us that the past was as complex and multifaceted as the present. Archaeologists continue to test new theories using astronomy software, experimental archaeology, and landscape surveys. Yet the enigma persists. Perhaps the circles were deliberately ambiguous, open to multiple uses and meanings. Their mystery is not a failure of knowledge, but a testament to their richness, keeping us wondering thousands of years later. Modern pagans hold solstice ceremonies at circles. Today, stone circles are not just archaeological sites. They are living spaces of ritual. Modern pagans, druids, and spiritual groups gather at Stonehenge, Avebury, and smaller circles to celebrate solstices, equinoxes, and seasonal festivals. On Midsummer's dawn, crowds watch the sun rise through Stonehenge's heel stone, just as people did thousands of years ago. These ceremonies are both revival and reinvention, blending ancient symbolism with modern spirituality. For participants, the stones are sacred companions, linking them to cycles of nature and the wisdom of ancestors. Authorities now manage these gatherings to balance preservation with access, but the spirit remains the same. Circles continue to be places where people mark the passage of time and celebrate their place in the cosmos. The continuity of ritual, even across millennia, shows that circles are not relics, but living monuments, still shaping human imagination and devotion. Circles feature in literature and film. Stone circles have long inspired storytellers. From folklore to modern fantasy, they appear as gateways to other worlds, places of magic or haunted ruins. In literature, they are settings for mysteries, romances, and supernatural tales. In film and television, they often serve as dramatic backdrops, from historical dramas to science fiction. Their circular form suggests portals, thresholds, and secrets waiting to be unlocked. Famous works like Thomas Hardy's Tess of the D'Urbervilles or modern fantasy series often place key events among stone circles, using their atmosphere to heighten drama. Even when depicted inaccurately, circles symbolize the weight of the past, the pull of the mysterious, and the enduring power of landscape. They have become icons of the imagination as much as of archaeology, showing that their influence extends beyond history into the realms of art, myth, and storytelling. They continue to inspire artists and musicians, painters, poets, and musicians have all drawn inspiration from stone circles. The haunting silhouettes of stones at dawn or dusk evoke timelessness, solitude, and cosmic mystery. Artists of the Romantic period captured their grandeur. Modern composers have written symphonies and songs inspired by their rhythm and presence. Photographers use them as subjects for exploring light and shadow, while sculptors and land artists echo their forms in new works. Circles represent more than monuments. They are archetypes of eternity and order. Their influence resonates not only in historical study, but in the living creativity of every age. Through art and music, the stones speak again, their silence transformed into sound and image. Each generation reinterprets them, proving that circles are not confined to the past, but are continuous sources of beauty and inspiration. New stone circles are built in modern times. The fascination with stone circles has led to new ones being built in recent decades. Some are artistic installations created by sculptors to echo ancient forms. Others are part of spiritual communities, modern pagan groups, or festivals seeking to recreate prehistoric ceremonies. These new circles may not have the weight of millennia, but they show the enduring appeal of the form. The act of arranging stones into a ring still speaks to something deep in human imagination. The need to gather, to mark time, to stand within a sacred geometry. In building new circles, people connect with both the past and the future, keeping alive a tradition that began thousands of years ago. They are homages to antiquity, experiments in art, and living rituals of community. The circle remains as compelling now as it was in prehistory. The mystery of stone circles still captivates the world. For all we know about them, stone circles remain profoundly mysterious. They resist simple answers, holding within their stones both history and enigma. Their endurance across millennia testifies to the devotion of their builders, while their ambiguity invites endless curiosity. They are at once monuments of engineering, symbols of eternity, and canvases for myth. Tourists, artists, archaeologists, and spiritual seekers all find meaning among them, each in their own way. Perhaps this is their greatest power. They do not tell us one story, but invite us to imagine many. From the sands of Egypt to the hills of Scotland, from folklore to modern ritual, stone circles bind together humanity's search for order, meaning, and connection to the cosmos. Their mystery is timeless, and it is that very mystery that ensures they will never cease to inspire awe. And so, we come to the end of our journey through 110 facts about stone circles. We have walked among their ancient pillars, listened for the echoes of voices across millennia, and felt the stillness of monuments that have stood longer than empires. Each circle has its own story, a quiet mystery etched into the land, carrying meanings that we can sense but may never fully know. Stone circles belong to both the earth and the sky. They rise from soil, rivers, and hills, yet they point to the movements of stars, sun, and moon. They remind us that humanity has always sought connection to the seasons, to ancestors, to one another, and to the cosmos itself. To stand inside a circle is to feel part of something vast and unbroken, a chain stretching back through time. Even as their builders vanished, the stones endured. Later generations feared them, reused them, reimagined them, or simply walked past them, yet they never lost their aura. Today, they inspire archaeologists, artists, musicians, and storytellers. They continue to be places of gathering, whether for study, celebration, or quiet reflection. And through all of this, they remain what they have always been, timeless companions in the landscape. As you drift now toward rest, let your mind settle into the calm rhythm of the circle, unbroken, eternal, enclosing you in stillness. Imagine the stones standing tall in moonlight, silent but alive with memory. Let the weight of history fade into quiet until only peace remains. If you are still awake, you are welcome to stay a little longer and let your thoughts wander to the next video, where more stories from history await. But if your eyes are closing, let them close. You are safe within the circle of rest. Good night and sleep well.